What's going on, everybody? Gustav the 13th here with another video. We have a new suit for the 8th of January 2026. It is the Victory Gundam. Finally breaching into this territory here for another series. And it is a 600 ground space general, melee priority 2, and a compatibility actually for ground here. Priority 3-star, as it does have its own 5-step banner. Essentially just 4 10 spins or whatever, since 2 of them are discounted. But in general, pretty interesting. I will say right out of the gate that this is a suit, and I think it's the first suit to really have a flight mode as well as flaps. In this case, the flight mode is actually minovsky craft. Totally forgot that that was a thing even early on for Victory. But the ornaments are a little bit interesting and not quite what I was expecting from the preview. Mostly because the dual sabers is not a second melee. It technically is in the sense that it is a melee weapon type, but it is thrown and thrown only. You cannot use it as an alternate swing for that. We do have a regular beam saber here, 2400 for the melee on this, cooldown time at 2.5. And in general, not too bad, has a really good downswing. A lot of travel on there. The beam rifle in particular, pretty solid if you're used to more heavy gun and all that other stuff that just has this and then the rapid on here, then you'll be right at home. Typically 2 bursts to hit anything that doesn't have DC on here for the stun. The one thing I will say is 2250 for the baseline rifle and 700 for the baseline power. A little bit on the underwhelming side in terms of output, but you do have this forward tube missile pod here. You do have to do a commit stance for it, but each of those is instant stagger. And you do have 8 shots. It all just kind of comes out in a volley 400. Good amount of ammo dump on there for a range of 275. Speaking of the range, the farthest you're going to get is the mainline beam gun rifle, having a range of 350 meters. And the rapid is actually a little bit less at just 300 flat. The Vulcans then are 175 for the range. Power of 135 with an ammo of 30, and it seems you have to have around 15 shots or so to connect without it having DC for that to actually accumulate into a stun. Good amount of rate of fire for these as well, so no real worries there. And then we do have a beam shield, size small, 2500 for the power when you smack somebody, with a shield health of 5000. Overheat time for this is 20 seconds. In general, the reload on these is pretty good. The highest that we're really seeing outside of the shield itself is for the throne, which is 16 seconds. Everything else is about 12, with the Vulcans being only 5. And then the mainline rifle for the regular shot is 15 seconds. The bigger thing for a lot of these is also just the cooldown time being a little bit long in terms of transition, but getting a little bit ahead of ourselves. Let's talk about these stats and skills right now. So, 19k health. Ballistic, beam, and melee resistance are 24, 25, and 17 respectively. Range strength and melee strength on this one, much like your typical baseline Gundams, balanced. Completely the same at 30 each. Movement speed is 140. Top speed is 220. I'll be honest with you, that movement speed being 140 feels slow. Thruster gauge at 70. Turning speed at 75. And the part slots here are 16, 17, and 11 for close, medium, and long. Getting into the stats then, we do have a single roll emergency evasion, flight control program 3. So you do have 50% off the consumption when you're boosting emitter and all that good stuff. Anti-blast stabilizer 1, high performance balancer 1, high spec ambac 2, maneuver armor 1, force injector 3, melee combat controller 1, aerial melee system, high performance radar 1. Frontline support system level 2, flat booster level 1, and minovsky flight system level 1. So the minovsky in this case, from what I can tell, is a little bit closer to how it is on the G. You don't have a timer. It still eats up your boost when you move around, and when you run out of boost, you fall out of the flight system mode itself. That being said, with or without that on, flat booster is usable. Unfortunately, you do have flat booster 1, which means you're going to bleed through your boost really fast when you're ascending. That being said, though, since you do have a higher amount of flight control program, as long as you're just in hang time, not that big of a deal. Still something to be aware of, though, and to be honest, for the most part, you're probably going to spend a lot of your time in minovsky flight system itself. So let's read down this a little bit. No automatic thruster consumption or recovery occurs when the skill is activated. So as long as you don't boost and you're just moving in regular neutral movement, you will not burn through boost. It is only when you want to do high-speed movement and try to get into range of things, typically when you're just doing a boost into like a downswing or whatever. Or just trying to get out of the way of something. So beyond that, we have reduces damage recoil in mid-air. So this is something that I think is a little bit interesting because there were a couple instances of me getting hit with like a thrown saber or something that should have a melee property on it, and it did knock me out of the sky. For anyone who's done flap heavy suits before, you know that that is typically something that does happen. In this case though, I think it's been so long since I really consistently ran a flight based suit, because technically the flight is a transformation similar to the mobile armor kind of transformation, although obviously the mobile armor transformation has a little bit more leeway in terms of the amount of resistance that it gives things. In this case, though, it may well be that you can't get hit out while you're doing that. And, you know, if anyone wants to confirm that, it'd be appreciated. I really would have to have someone consistently just throw something at me like a topper or whatever to kind of check on that. But interesting to note, obviously be careful if you're close to the ground and you get hit, because you will get stunned out of your mode and it will just land you on your feet. Hopefully. The other thing, of course, to keep in mind is that although it does reduce certain stuff like that, you don't have damage control. You only have maneuver armor 1, so you gotta be a little bit careful about how much accumulation you take. Also, for anyone who doesn't know, because maybe you haven't done a lot of flight suits or stuff like that, syncs movement and melee attacks to the reticle direction when active. So if you're used to moving around in space, this does behave very similarly. Something to keep in mind for that when you're trying to do your stuff. And it's actually pretty nice because it does mean that you can kind of do some redirects and other maneuvers that you normally wouldn't be able to do with just flaps, especially when it comes to the turn limitations when you're coming out in hang time. Backing out a little bit of that, let us check out the enhancement list. So we have +1 to anti-beam, +1 to ballistic resistance, +1 to range strength, and then our complex expansion slot for +1 to all the slots comes in at 2480. And then you have to have some gold unlocks here. So the first unlock is +5 to anti-beam, and the second one is +5 to range strength, which just puts it at 35 flat. Not a lot to really write home with that, so that's 36 cumulative. Not really like a tops you off to 40 or whatever baseline, but let us take this thing into practice and we'll talk about it and show it off a little bit more before we go into our example match. I will say this thing was a pain in the ass to get. I wailed a little bit, I'll admit that. And the version of the client that took the cards, because this is a different region, took us a little bit of doing. That was a little awkward, but mainline shot here. I still really wish that we had like a Nanto or like a charging thing for this, but oh, you know what, hold on a second, one thing I want to check. Obviously in the minovsky craft you can, I didn't think about whether or not, yeah, in regular hang time you can't throw these. That's just a regular commit stance, which is a little unfortunate. Not quite like the brand marker, and I think even the thrown whatever on the Destiny lets you do that in hang time too. So that's a little bit of an odd thing. But it, again, this is a situation where it's like, we have a gimmick, we want you to use it. Flaps is just a formality because you'd be mad if we didn't give it to you. They want you to be a minovsky craft as much as possible. Like it's super obvious. Especially when it comes to the fact that this stops on a dime, like it does have all the space advantage stuff going on. The only time that you really get hard redirects is if you're going up or down particularly hard and trying to redirect out. And like you see there, once we burn through all our boosts, we just come out of flight system and then we do the cooldown. And you can go right back into it. So kind of nice. There's no real big, what's the word? Like cooldown time or wait or anything like that. There goes the instant stun for the missiles. You can actually guide the thrown saber a little bit, and if we hit this guy 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 shots for that, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 15 for that. Not too shabby. That being said, this kit is pretty simplistic. Obviously, it's more so about how dynamic you can be with this kind of movement. The fact that you don't really waste any boost by being in the air pretty much forever, as long as you don't, you know, redline yourself by boosting while you're using the minovsky craft itself. No timer. It is boost dependent. As you can see there, we're not sipping boosts. We're just not using boost at all. So pretty neat. Obviously, when you're in this mode, as you can see, there's an attack down. They want you to use this. They don't... It seems like they don't really want you to have too much of an advantage while you're in the air, but I wonder what percentage base that is when it comes to the reduction anyway, and how negligible or problematic that might be regardless. There's also the matter of flaps. Kind of feels like something you would use if you were afraid of getting hit out of your, you know, when it does this little tense thing, like, oh, I transformed, and doing that kind of thing. There's also the idea that, like, there's a certain amount of floatiness when it comes to really doing the downswing stuff just from a raw transition, just because of the cooldown time and all that. And that's a little bit frustrating. Also, as you can see, without any boost parts on this, you run out of boost just by a couple cancels and shit fairly quickly. There is a decent amount of grace period when it comes to that downswing. It feels like everything on this, even when you're not in the minovsky craft, is very floaty. Like, you can see how long that landing took. And you are recovering boost the entire time that that's happening, but you don't really have offense system or anything like that, so it's not necessarily that it's safe. It's just fortunate that you have a decent amount of traversal on it. That can help out. But in general, very, very simplistic kind of suit. Very busy in the sense where it kind of always has a little bit of something you can do at any given time. It is a little bit risky to bring this in for melee and the payoff, because it's a balanced damage kind of suit with Saber that's not even at like 3k for the overall, with only melee priority 2. It is a bit risky. The payoffs are very small. As you can see there, the missiles do a decent amount to the base. The rifle, not too bad either, just in general, but definitely not a base buster suit by any stretch of the imagination. You can put more ranged on this. It's relatively easy to get it to about 40 or 50 or so with some extra parts. The slottage is a little bit stifling in that regard, and as you can see there, the hitbox for the melee is a little bit, I don't know if the right word is delayed, but it lingers more than it should on that final, like, arm outstretched part of the animation. So that's not too awful. If you're used to other big downswings that had that big, like, fanning swing with the advance, then you probably already understand the spacing and stuff needed for that. Oh, we did have a couple matches. I'll be honest, some of our better performing ones were on losing matches. This thing can do a lot, and like I said, it can keep busy, so you can definitely rack up the numbers on this pretty well and frustrate some people. But we'll throw on one of the matches that we got right around here.
Let's get to work. Mobile suit team, sortie 1 by 1.
Alright, well, let's try this again.
Here we go! Commence operation!
Oh. Aw, but he fell all the way down. Fuck. No.
This damage shouldn't affect you much.
Oh. Oh, wait, what? Oh, Kahar, I think.
You've taken some serious damage.
That shield out of here, bitch.
An ally has destroyed an enemy mobile suit destroyed! Whoa, your mobile suit isn't looking good!
Get that shield out of here again, bitch. Oh, oh.
Enemy mobile suit.
He's like thoroughly dead.
Your ally's been knocked out.
Ooh.
Oh no! Your mobile
All the aunts. I was like, what the hell is that?
enemy mobile suit.
That's just a guitar too. Yeah.
Pick where and how you'll sortie.
3 and 5 are trying to chew on this guy, but they're taking too long. 2's probably gonna go in a second.
Good luck.
Unless he's got more mobile shooting going on.
Your ally's been knocked out. This damage shouldn't affect you
Get
much.
back.
Your ally's been knocked out. You've taken some serious damage. Whoa, your mobile suit isn't looking good. Your ally's been knocked out. Beacons are a big deal, pilot. You should capture them. Enemy mobile suit destroyed. An ally has destroyed an enemy mobile suit. Oh no! Your mobile suit has had it.
No.
Your ally's been knocked out. An ally has destroyed an
No.
enemy mobile suit.
No.
Fire incoming.
Oh
Good
shit.
luck.
This is probably gonna get blocked though. So there was a really good edit cut of this that was on Spotify from someone who did it on
SOS from an ally.
Why are you over there? Oh my lord.
An ally has destroyed an enemy mobile suit.
No, the neutral is still broken. That should not reach like that.
You've taken
That's some old bullshit and you know it.
enemy mobile suit destroyed. I'm picking up an SOS from an ally. Your ally's been knocked out. Enemy mobile suit destroyed.
Oh. How dare you? What in the hell? What a bunch of bullshit. Oh, he's laggy. That sucks.
Ally has destroyed an enemy mobile suit. Enemy mobile suit
That
destroyed.
boy.
Looks like we're ahead for now.
Or I can just completely misread where he is, like a dummy.
Whoa, your mobile suit isn't looking good. Your legs are about to go.
Nah, my leg is. Sick.
An ally has destroyed an enemy mobile suit.
Oh my god, hit him.
Your legs are banged up. Oh no!
Oh.
Your mobile suit is
I think I hit him. Nope. That's it. I should have threw that first. That's my fault. That would have been a good test to see if that actually would have got him on or not.
been knocked out.
Letting air.
2 minutes left in the
Because that's something that I forget
jumped up in priority.
whether or not it's necessarily a trait for flight suits. Or if that's something that they kind of granted them in terms of a resistance. Oh my god, stop. What is happening? Go up and stay up. Yeah.
Your ally's been knocked out.
get to something else, I guess.
Your ally's been knocked out! Enemy mobile
There we go.
destroyed! There's a bomb planted in our base!
Yeah, you want to talk about extra movement.
An ally has just 1 minute
This
remaining.
motherfucker.
Stay sharp! Enemy mobile suit destroyed! An ally is defusing a bomb! An ally is defusing a bomb! This bomber moved
Uh-oh.
from base successfully!
No.
Your legs are banged up!
Stop. Yeah, this thing's got no leggies. It is.
Run out!
It's got space wafers for legs. Ugh.
Yeah, we won!
That's interesting. It's got a bit of lazy movement to it, but like, it's not awful.
Here are this battle's rewards!
Alright, and that was our match in the Victory Gundam. Overall, I don't feel too awful about making myself run this the entire week on Ginny wherever possible. Do I think that it's going to replace my daily drivers compared to what I have on Gus? Not really. For Ginny, this is kind of a godsend because I don't have the Yagdoga sleeves. There's a couple other suits that are kind of equivalent in terms of just kind of damage loops that I could do, but those aren't really that great compared to what can be done in this thing. That being said, I did do some other rounds in the Doga sleeves and some of my more typical stuff afterwards on Gus when I was doing my dailies, and I feel like I like the damage loop a little bit more there. I think where this changes things for the game and at this cost range is the fact that we have another suit that's hitting people at really frustrating angles because it is a minovsky craft. It's also bringing back a smaller resurgence of other flight suits coming out of retirement to try to counteract this thing running around. So you're seeing even more Violent Custom Unit 2s, the support one, but also just the regular as well as Atlases, because I think the special shot out of that can actually get you out of the transformation, and it's all ballistic in a suit that's generally pretty low on the baseline melee and just ranged defense in general. That is the one thing I will say. Even though this does have these missiles are not as strong as like Jagan missiles, and unless you really jack up the ranged output, they're not going to be a big payoff compared to the rifle. But this is a cost range, of course, where unless you're fighting very, mobile parts, heavy suits, then they're going to have a lot of beam range defense by default. And that can be a little bit frustrating to deal with. But overall, I think this is a pretty solid suit, a very good first edition for the Victory line. Obviously, we're going to be getting that other funky helicopter one, and I'm assuming, I think it's actually a raid, right? Coming out later on. It's going to be interesting to see this fight against that. I forget if it's actually also going to be a 600, if it's going to be like a 550 affair, but obviously the Victory, I don't doubt, will get all the way to 700 or 750, I should say. How it's going to fare at that cost range, even with the minovsky craft and stuff, considering that the G and Penelope really couldn't hack it by comparison. Obviously, this is a miniaturized suit, so maybe it'll be a little bit safer, but we'll just have to see. For now, though, at 600, it's pretty nice. It's having to deal with a lot of the unit adjusted suits, including the Young Fabin and stuff like that. And it's 2 mixed results. Definitely good. A little bit frustrating to have to deal with another flight suit running around at a cost like this, but it's nice when you got it. So, like I said, I'll be playing this throughout the week on my alt account when possible. I think the next time that we get a 600 clan match situation, there's probably going to be a couple of these buzzing around because it does feel like a pretty safe adventure to get into. Especially if you have some more forward tilt heavy or just aggressive force, and you can just kind of buzz around and get some good downswings in between, just throwing out your shit to hold people still. But that is going to be the long and short of it for the Victory Gundam. Hopefully I'll see you guys on the battlefield. If not, be sure to let me know in the comments if you spun for this, how you've been liking it or hating it. And until next time, hope to see you guys in the next video. Although I do kind of wonder if we're going to be able to get that. But fingers crossed, right? See you later.